I tried to find out from the cameras who he was and what his car looked like. But the man was not visible on the cameras. He was neither walking nor leaning against the window. My hands were shaking. I couldn't even rewind the camera. I felt like I was going to faint from fear. What was this? He was clearly not human. I was devastated to experience such things on God's highway, 40 kilometers from the nearest settlement. The longer I sat by myself in the convenience store of the small petrol station, the crazier I got. I needed a distraction. I got a fruit soda and a biscuit from the fridge to calm down. I sat down, turned on the TV, found a talk show, and started watching it. I hated talk shows. What I needed right now was to feel that I was not alone in this big world. I felt a little relieved. I would occasionally check my eyes outside, but I was a little relieved. Everything was normal until 10 o'clock at night. At that time, I was outside smoking a cigarette. A man with his hands covered in machine oil approached me and said, "Brother, the car is broken down. Someone needs to move the gears. Can you come?" I asked. "Sure, master. Where's the car?" He said it was just around the corner. We walked together from the gas station to the road. I looked to the right. There was no car. When I turned to my left, I realized that the man had disappeared too. I looked around, but the man seemed to have vanished into thin air. I went back to the gas station in fear. I was trying to figure out what had just happened. I saw that man again on the side of the road. I looked at the man again and said, "Repent. God forgive me." This time, he was at the bottom of the shop window. I shouted and tried to shoo him away, but he just smiled at me and walked away. He was a man with a dirty beard, sparse hair, and bad clothes. I was very frightened by this. What happened to me when I was working out of town was so horrible that it drove me crazy. At that time, I was 26 years old and I got a new job. I was going to work at a gas station outside the city. I would stay at the gas station for 3 days. I would have a day and a half off. The owner of the station was acting strange. He was also suspicious, but I saw him twice a week, so it didn't bother me much. I finished the biscuit and reached for the trash behind me to throw it away. I turned back to the TV. I noticed that the soda bottle was not on the table in front of me. It was on the previous grocery shelf. This shook me to my core. I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. When I looked at the camera again, the soda bottle looked as if it had been placed there by editing. The only difference was that there was a blur between the table and the shelf. This blur would have been noticeable, even on a poor quality camera. I turned the camera off and thought about what to do. I thought about calling my boss. I wanted to tell him about the situation, but I thought he wouldn't believe me. I thought he would make fun of me and not take me seriously. I was new at work and I didn't know what to say. While I was thinking this, the motion sensor in front of the door beeped. I slowly approached the door, praying in my heart, but there was nothing. At least nothing I could see, but the sound of the sensor was the last straw. I grabbed my phone and called the boss. The only reason I called my boss was that there was no one else to cover the gas station. After 3 rings, as soon as the boss picked up, I said, "Mr. Gallup, there are strange things happening at the gas station." After a few seconds of hesitation, he asked, "What kind of strange things, Meat?" I didn't know how to explain. After a few seconds of hesitation, I managed to say, "Paranormal? Can you find someone to cover for me? I really need to go home." He took a deep breath. My answer didn't surprise him at all. He said, "Okay, wait a little longer. I'll be there." I was surprised. Mr. Gallup had a few other gas stations. It was pointless for him to come himself. Nervously, I tried to distract myself by praying and singing. After about 40 minutes, Mr. Gallup was at the door in his black Mercedes. When he honked the horn at me, I got out and went to his window. "Lock up the store and come," he said. He was getting weirder and weirder. When I locked the store and got in the car, he smiled under his mustache and started driving. I asked, "Where are we going, Mr. Gallup?" He was looking away from me. After a short while, he took a deep breath and started talking. "I should have told you this before, Meat, but I didn't want to believe it was real. My employee before you had the same experience. He said he was experiencing paranormal phenomena. I thought he was crazy, but it turns out it was something else." This made me even more uneasy. So he had ignored a man's experiences just to keep his job. I tried to stay calm and asked, "What happened then?" He gave me a furtive look and said, "In a mental hospital." I shivered inside. "You still haven't told me where we're going," I said. "To sort this out," he said. When I said, "What do you mean?" he said, "I know an imam, a family friend. We're going to go to him. We will find out what this is all about." This meant that I was not the focus of the issue. This shows that Gallup's past is dirty too, I thought. After a silent and tense journey, we arrived at the house of the man Gallup said he knew. We drove through gravel roads in the town we had entered. When we arrived, the man he called Imam was watering his garden. Gallup got out of the car, greeted the man, kissed his hand, and started talking to him. I joined them, and we entered the house together. The man invited us into the living room. I huddled in a corner, and Gallup sat across from the man. As the Imam listened to our troubles, at some points he frowned. At others, his eyebrows raised. Gallup, on the other hand, was talking fast. He was spitting as if he wanted to finish the story as soon as possible. After listening to the whole story, Imam stopped. He thought for a moment and turned to Gallup. "Give me 5 minutes. I'll be back soon." Then he went into the next room. He stayed there for a few minutes. Then he came back and sat down in front of us. He looked at Gallup with a more serious expression than when he left. "This story is not complete, Gallup," he said. Gallup looked guiltily at the Imam. He seemed to be asking what he meant. The Imam interjected, "There is only one reason for all these events: the oppressed. A worker fell to his death during the construction of this gas station because of insufficient precautions. Remember, you silenced all the other workers just to avoid paying compensation. It was recorded as a worker-related work accident," he said, and started to stare at Gallup. Some of the jinns were disguised as my mother and hugged me. Others were my brother and made me bleed from my eyes. I finally managed to escape into a gap. I jumped into the car, locked the door with a button, and started praying. But the car wouldn't move. They were shaking it from both sides. The Imam Gallup had brought was useless, like a charlatan in disguise. The car almost overturned. I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't care about Gallup or the Imam. I got into the driver's seat and turned the ignition. I heard the sound of the car, The Imam and Galip started running towards me. Without waiting for them, I put the car in reverse. I drove off. After 2 kilometers, I realized I was driving a stolen car. I left the car on the side and started walking to hitchhike. Hours later, I drove myself home. I was like a spirit. In the evening, as I was trying to process what had happened, I came across the news. A gas station in Antalya had been blown up, killing the owner and a friend. His car was found 2 kilometers away from the station. A search was underway for the person who had fled in the car. As a result of these events, I spent months in police stations and courts and years seeing a psychiatrist. I still feel the effects. When I got out of the car, they all started hissing at once. They were saying things that echoed in my head, but I couldn't understand. They started walking around us. There were 3 of us walking neck to neck. I was using my willpower to the fullest. When the Imam was in the middle of them all, he started shouting prayers. Suddenly, they all went crazy. The screams were now tearing my ears. They were all turning around and trying to scare us. I was trembling. I was waiting for the Imam to recite his prayer. Something caught my eye on the right side. I saw my father. I'll never forget. He was wearing the shirt he wore at my brother's funeral 15 years ago. He never wore it again. I ignored the Imam shouting and calling back and went to my father. When I stood in front of him, I almost threw up. In my father's hand was a shroud in which a child was obviously wrapped. Blood was dripping from the end of the shroud onto the ground. The shroud had turned red. When I looked up in horror, I saw my father grinning. He showed 32 teeth. It was the most horrible look I had ever seen in my life. Tears welled up in my eyes. I tried to go back towards the Imam, but all those beings encircled me. They wouldn't let me go. Galip sheepishly mumbled his agreement. Imam continued, "What hardships that man's family suffered just because of this. That's the reason why this gas station can't be used." Galip gave me evasive glances and was cringing with embarrassment. Pulling himself together, "What can we do?" When a voice from the back room said, "Nothing." I told him what I had seen and what he had said. "They will give us a lot of trouble. We won't be able to solve it easily," he said. Then he gathered his things and stood up. "Come on, we have to go to the gas station," he said. We got in the car. I sat in the back and leaned my head against the window. I started thinking about how to get out of this situation. After about 20 minutes of driving, all of a sudden, I hit my face on the front seat. The car was sliding. "There they are! They won't let me go!" Galip was screaming. The car stopped with the ear-splitting sound of sliding tires and our hitting bumps. My ears were ringing. I tried to understand what was happening. The Imam was praying calmly, and Galip was breathing fast. "They have started playing games now. I saw a child right in front of the car. They almost killed us," he said. My lip was bursting. There was a dent on the right side of the car. The Imam looked at us and said, "This is not the time to calculate 2 drops of blood. Drive to the gas station," he said. He seemed to know something we didn't know. Galip continued driving the car to the gas station. When we rounded the bend and started to see the gas station, my heart sank. I felt like I was going to die. There was a crowd of about 90 to 100 people around the gas station. From a distance, I thought they were people, but something inside me told me they were not. When I opened the door with trembling hands, I realized that my suspicions were right. These were not human beings. None of them had faces.